Gundam.tk presents Master Grade Age-1 Titus. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs from GundamReviews.net, and I've been taking a look at the Master Grade Age-1 Titus, which is its wear variation. You've already seen the unbox, the plates, and the parts, and now it's time to put all of these things together and check it out how it looks in its Red Hulk MS mode. When the Titus is all put together, and I haven't done really any attempt here to try to make it a cool pose, it's just a pretty much straight standing one, I'm going to say that he looks pretty good. In terms of the proportions, I think they did a great job. It certainly is Master Grade sort of sleekness, if that's the right word to describe it. Just in terms of overall height, it's certainly not blocky the way a 1/100th non-grade would be. But overall, you are going to get the size of the impression of the limbs anyway, that the legs are going to be big and the arms are going to be big, especially up there with those big cartoony shoulders and hands. I've got to say that they really nailed it in terms of proportions here in terms of looks. So what are we going to see in terms of articulation? Well, for the lower body, if you pop these skirts up, which are independent, you can bring the leg all the way forward for a 90-degree kick there. This is also going to apply if you want to go for the old knee of pain. Remember that the knees are going to give you a very good bend. The ankles are going to work well off to the side and front and back. But it's the shoulders that looks like they got the focus of the attention in the engineering stages, and that's really where it should be. You can rotate the waist around there. But remember, with these shoulders, you can actually pop them out there. They've got that gray part there that's going to go down. You can plug that in, but you are still going to be able to move the red parts there. You can also move these red parts here, which are going to actually move the arm, well, without it actually popping off there. But you can move these red parts here. If you notice that this part is going to be moving inside this gray inner frame from that outer part, which is very, very impressive. So you should have a great range of mobility here if you pop everything up. You can see that the red part's sort of dislodged there though, so that could be a little bit problematic. Very easy to get back in. Remember, you can rotate this part here. The elbow's going to give you a nice 135, and those fists are going to rotate around so that they're going to look cool no matter which angle he's punching you at. For size comparison, I'll kick things right off with a little bit of a shocker here, but just in terms, this guy should be a little bit on the stocky side, the short stocky side, compared to especially the normal and the Sparrow. But you can see that even when he's hulked out, you could pop open those shoulders there just to make it a little bit larger. But you can just see that the Master Grade Banshee, whose review you can also check out, is just going to absolutely tower over the newest wearer of the newest lead. Well, the Age-1 anyway. What you're seeing on the right here is not a gunpla, it's not a plastic model, it's the 1/100th gauging builders. This is the Age-2 normal, and remember, sadly, since we don't have a 1/100th non-grade line, that this is the only 1/100th Age-2 you can get until the inevitable Master Grade, which hopefully isn't going to be too far away. In terms of height, though, you can see that the Titus is going to be smaller, and he's certainly not going to have the same wingspan that this guy gets, thanks to those things that are just flopping off his shoulders there. But finally, to like with like, and these are very alike here, with the Age-1 normal on the right. This is also the Master Grade, which came out a month earlier than the Titus. You can see here that with the high grades, you actually had a fair bit of height difference between the Age-1 normal and the Titus, whereas with this one, I'd just say it's about half a centimeter. You're not going to have all that big a difference there. You certainly are going to have more of an RX-78-2 sleek look to this, especially just with some of the newer redesigns, especially Katoki Hajime's, etc. But over there with the Titus, you are going to have the overall speed, or it's just going to look bigger and bulkier, if not speedier though. For whatever reason, it just seems like the fins there, the race car spoiler on the back, is just going to stand out a little bit more, probably because it's just offset there with red. But overall, I've got to say that the Titus is certainly very cool in terms of proportions, and it's a nice addition to the Age-1 family. In terms of posing, this guy, believe it or not, is probably going to take a little bit of patience if you really want to show off the muscle man poses. So if you want to get the Schwarzenegger here, you're going to have to get the legs and the hips and everything lined up just right, and those shoulders, again, with all that articulation, you can move them around all over the place. If this was Street Fighter 4, it looks like a spinning pile driver would be incoming here. The grappling hands are actually going to look pretty good, better than I expected. They do lose something by not having the articulation, no doubt about that, but they are in a pretty good default pose there. The thumb just having that point of articulation is going to be pretty good. It's going to take a little bit of tweaking the shoulders to get them around, because you're going to have to sort of pull them out to get them able to rotate forward and back, just because of the way that they can get locked in there. But overall, even in just a simple pose like this guy is going to have a pretty cool place, I think, on your shelf, and certainly one of the more unique Gundams out there. And while this pose could certainly be improved upon with a little bit more time, this is the kind of thing that the Master Grade Ground Gundam advertised almost a decade ago, and yet this guy pulls it off with very, very little effort needed on the part of the person posing him. I gotta say that he looks pretty cool. These hands are certainly growing on me, and it's nice to have those variations instead of just the old closed fist. But then again, sometimes you do just need fists of power in place there. For this kind of shot, which is somewhat reminiscent of the last shot, except for the fact that he's actually got a head, depending on which kind of angle you put your head at and your vantage point, in the case of this camera here, you can actually have this guy look not so great straight on, but if you do just elevate him ever so slightly, you can actually have a pretty cool effect. And though this may look a little bit awkward as it rotates around, if you were just to set it up in a stationary pose on your shelf, it's absolutely incredible what you can do with those hips and legs, and the ankles are doing a good job of getting it wherever you want it to go. But that beam lariat looks like it's going to be bringing a whole bunch of pain. I should probably do a better job of tucking this arm back into place. But the way you can twist the arms around, or the waist around, and the way you can do the whole upper body, I'd say that if you freeze it about right there, that is a very cool and iconic Master Grade pose. Again, you can do all sorts of tricks to get the waist into position, but this guy is going to come across as somebody with a lot of rage issues and the ability to physically do something about it. You don't even need to necessarily go aerial here for the knee full of pain to be coming out of the left side. It actually does a pretty good job. This ankle here is very solid over here, and just with this, the length of the toes down there, you're getting tons of parts they're contacting in terms of surface area so that you can have all sorts of ridiculous poses, even without an action base whose attachment is included. Now with the shoulders open and all of the effect parts in, you've seen things like the Master Grade Strike Freedom full burst mode, but what about this guy? This is a full mode and a half, I'd say. So that's all I've got to say about the mobile suit mode of this Master Grade Age-1 Titus. Don't forget to stay tuned for the verdict, where I'll have my final list of all the good and bad things that I could pick out for this kit, so that you can make a call whether this is something you want to add to your collection. Anyway, everybody, stay tuned, and please let me know what you think with a comment down below about the MS and the video itself. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next final part. You know, looking at you, I feel decidedly normal.